Yeah, get whatever you want. And you can have all this stuff if you want. It's no dramas. Thanks for letting me rearrange your office.
No dramas, mate. 3 days running.
literally forced you to take me fishing.
No, it was good, man. It was good.
It was good, even though the weatherman wasn't very kind.
It wasn't as the forecast predicted, but nonetheless, we had a good day. It was a good day. We caught a fish.
You've had a good season.
Yeah, it's only starting. But,
Is it?
Yeah, so on the fishing front, pretty much had 2 weeks straight. Fished 14 out of 17 days off. Turned into a pirate.
And what were your stats? If you
I
have
think we just ticked over 40 on our trip. So, not what I was wanting. I was wanting more, but stoked nonetheless. So it's been a good start to the season. So,
what does the season look like here?
Here, sort of mid-December through till mid to late April, you'll have billfish down at Port Stephens. But for me, obviously, I sort of finish up mid-March when deer hunting starts. So it's a pretty crazy time of year. Like, I'm trying to marlin fish as much as I can, and then it's like also, okay, the rut's kicking off. I've got to go scout deer, go hunt deer. Kind of March 20th, 15th, that's stumps for me on the fishing.
And then straight into the mountains.
Straight into the mountains for another month. So it's a hard time of year to balance it out, but yeah, I do the best every year.
What got you into marlin fishing?
We've done the bow hunting story last time. Now this is the fishing story.
We did.
Pretty much, I've fished my whole life since I can remember as a kid, a couple of years old, fished with dad, and I think it was just a natural progression. You know, like you caught bream and flathead, and you always want to catch a bigger fish, and we kind of just progressed over the years. And I think that billfish is something that everyone sort of wants to catch. It's that dream fish. And the home port of Port Stephens, where we fish out of, one of the marlin capitals of Australia. It was just a natural progression. You know, we probably started marlin fishing, it have to be 14, 15 years ago, and it's just grown from there. It's probably my favourite type of fishing now. It's such a visual, exciting style of fishing. Can be extremely boring and long days with nothing, but for me, it's the bite I chase. It's that first 30 seconds while you got to fish up in the spread. It's all happening. It's gone from nothing to everything. I love it. Like, it's the best. Can't get enough of it.
Especially like light to medium tackle stuff too.
Yeah, for sure.
Stand up.
All that 15, 24 kilo stand up stuff. Striped marlin on the shelf's my favourite. It's just so exciting and visual, and you see everything. It's very intimate. Cannot get enough of it, mate. It's the best. Even though I don't like winding them in myself.
I'm the same with fishing because I've fished my whole life too. Just the enjoyment you get about from giving other people the opportunity to catch fish and stuff and seeing their joy.
100%, man. And it's a team sport as well. It's not just a skipper. It's not just a deckhand. Like, it's everyone working together to get the job done. You know, like, you'll have your skipper. You might have 2 or 3 deckhands if you're on a big boat, 1 or 2 anglers. Everyone's got a job. Everyone has to do something, and you tag that fish, and it's not one person stoked. Everyone on the boat's stoked. You know, you've all caught a fish to me.
Yeah, it's shared.
Yeah, that's what it's about. And particularly on the old man's boat, he's got a game boat, and we've been fishing on that a few times lately, and there's been a lot of new anglers on the boat, so to see those people catch their first fish, like, I know what that feeling was like, so to be able to give it to them, see them excited, yeah, that's what it's all about.
Definitely. And your transition, so did you bow hunt from a young age as well, or did you transition into bow hunting and learn it yourself?
So as I was a kid, I always wanted to go hunting. We lived on a bit of property where I grew up, and I was always out adventuring, exploring. Started building bows when I was a kid, like 5 or 6 years old, you know, and like start shooting rabbits, and it was just a natural progression from there. So I had a little bit of influence. My dad used to go shooting with rifles back in the day, and I'd see those photos and think it was really cool, you know, wanting to do what your old man done, and obviously didn't have access to rifles or anything like that as a kid, and here I am building bows, and I was like, oh, well, I can just start like this, building bows, whatever. And it wasn't until I was probably 14 or 15 that I was invited on a few hunting trips with friends, family friends and stuff, and I'd take my bow. And it was a little bit hard working with rifle hunters, as you can imagine, particularly being young, but I wanted it so bad. Just being out in the bush and everything like that was incredible in itself, you know. From that, I had this desire. Like, all I wanted to do was go bow hunting. You know, it was funny. I used to watch, when I was younger, Brad Smith's DVDs and things like that, and put the idea in my head. It was like, I want to hunt mountain boars. Fast forward now, that's what I do. But I think having the desire to do that back in the day, but not the means to do it, made it really special when I did have the opportunity to go out and hunt. You know, it was really special and important to me, and I really savoured that time out there. And that just built over the years and just turned into the passion I have now. I couldn't picture my life any other way.
And your aspirations built from mountain boars, and then how did it progress from there?
As in what hunting style I have, you're saying? Or?
Yeah, so like you've chased boars in the mountains your entirety of your bow hunting career,
yep.
But you've obviously progressed into and challenged yourself with other stuff overseas, other species in Australia, all of that. So how did that look on your timeline, I guess?
Timeline-wise, I think New Zealand was probably one of my first overseas hunts, along with the States. I didn't exactly know what I wanted. I'm not someone that has, within reason, certain species. I have to shoot this stag. I have to shoot this animal in this location. What I've learnt is I go for the adventure. It's like, what hunt can offer me more adventure? You know, there's a lot of knowns in the hunting I do over here. You're knowing what you're going to get. You know what to expect. It's kind of Groundhog Day when you go in the mountains over here. Like, I've got them patterned out. I know how it's going to go down. Overseas hunts, different locations, never been there before, never hunted this animal. You put boots on the ground day one, and it's all right, I've got to figure this out now. And that for me is that challenge in the adventure. That's what I'm chasing now. You know, like New Zealand, massive adventure for me. That's really big on the list. I've got 2 hunts in the rut coming up for reds and planning a hunt in May for the tar rut as well. So that place over there is massive country, epic scenery. The animals are a challenge to hunt, and you put all that together and it's an amazing experience. Africa as well, just the variety of game, the cultural difference, getting there, you know, it's all adds up, and it's a combination of the hunt, you know. So for me now, it's about that adventure. That's what I'm chasing.
So the species is kind of a value add.
Within reason, yeah. Obviously, I'm partial to certain animals and things like that, but you have a good adventure with it, that's what you remember. You know, we went up into the territory, me and Hoda, he's taking photos of us now, and that was learn the place from scratch, drive up, figure it all out. And, you know, I think we hunted for like 12 days, probably 8 of those days were just non-events, just nothing happening, seeing nothing, bugger all, scratching our heads. And when we finally did piece it together, we got a couple of good bulls on the ground. But that whole trip, I wouldn't change it. You know, it's like we really had to work for it. And when you put that work in, you figure them out, and it's like you get the drop on that animal. So good. So good.
Explain to me the contrast between your hunting that you do down here, Central South Coast, New South Wales, for people listening. Explain to the contrast between that and the territory.
Well, so in the mountains, and I'll say for boars, because that's kind of my bread and butter, they are so unpredictable. You know, within reason where they are, but patterning them is almost impossible. You go north, it's water, particularly late season. So I'll always try and go up later in the year when the water's more isolated. So water is life up there. You hang around that water, the animals are going to be there within reason, you know. So you're concentrating on those water sources, and for us it was obviously floodplains. You know, we tried some of the creek bed country and all sorts of different regions like that. Just wasn't happening. We went out into the floodplains, and there were certain areas on the floodplains that were just dead. You know, there was just so much country we had to cover, and we figured out the pockets that the buffalo were living in, and you get in there and there'd be hundreds of them within a couple K radius, you know, and you go into other areas, you drive for 10, 20, 30 kilometres on a floodplain along the edge and wouldn't see a single animal. So it was those concentrated pockets of water we were hunting, whereas back here in the mountains, you're going to sit on a vantage point and you're going to glass from sun up till sundown some days, particularly if you're looking for that special animal. You know, you might see mobs of pigs, younger boars, everything like that, but that big old boar on that mountainside, he might not show himself for 3 days if he does. You know, they're a ghost. They come out in the night. Sows on heat will bring them out. And also in the depths of winter, when it's really, really cold, I believe nights that go below -2, -3, the next day is your best hunting, because they're like us. They like to be comfortable. They don't want to go out and feed in the cold. They want to be warm. So they'll say, I'm going to stay in my bed tonight. Then it forces their hand to feed the next day. So you'll often find you'll glass from first light and you'll be there freezing your ass off on the side of the mountain, and you'll see a couple of mob pigs, and they'll always be on the slopes facing the sun getting that first light. And then it'll be between, say, 10 and 12 o'clock, mid-morning to lunchtime. You'll glass an open face in the tussocks, and then there'll be a 90-kilo boar in there just appeared. And it's like, what are you doing? It's 11 o'clock in the morning. And they'll come out for that sort of mid-morning sun, have a bit of a feed for 20 minutes, then go back to their beds. And in winter, I'll shoot a lot of boars like that. So it's like very contrasting styles of hunting. But anywhere you go in the world, it's all different, and you've got to figure that out. The key to being successful is understanding animals and their habits. Like, you can't shoot them where they're not. So, like I said, with that adventure and the learning, that's the big part of it, figuring out those animals and then putting it into practice in your hunting.
And have you grabbed skills from hunting mountain boars and then brought them across to different species and different locations?
I think just hunting in general, man. Like, you're constantly learning, picking up on animal behaviour, little things you do. It's all those 1% things that make you a better hunter. Like, the basic principles are the same, but it's all the 1% things. And being able to read animals, their body language, to me, is one of the most important things you can do as a hunter.
Makes sense. Do you plan on chasing boars and stuff overseas or other areas of Australia?
Yeah, so I had a hunt planned. Sorry, mate.
You're right, no, all good. We can both fit.
This was pre-COVID. Uzbekistan has some of the biggest mountain boars in the world. So I had a hunt planned with Joe from Ridgewalker Hunts, who I hunted in Italy with over there. I think it was like 2020 or 2019. I was all keen to go, and it was quite reasonable, the rate to go over there, because they don't touch them. They're just untouched, these boars that live way up in the Alps with the ibex and all that. And obviously COVID happened, that hunt fell through, but that was one hunt I did want to do for a boar overseas, just because of the sheer size of them. They're like 3-4 times bigger than the ones we get over here, you know, which is ridiculous. And you see photos of the tusks and it's like 2 hands laid out with 1 tusk on it kind of thing, like just ridiculous. So that was one hunt I did want to do for boars overseas, but I would struggle to go and hunt just standard pigs like we have, say, if we went to Florida or something like that. You know, it wouldn't be high on the list when I can do it at home. But in saying that, I'm looking at doing a hunt in Turkey this year. They have really good boar hunting over there. Just waiting on someone to lock in with that, and if that's the case, we'll go over, I think, in May or June and do that as well.
And you just made me think of Ridgewalker then. You just got back from Italy not long ago too.
Yeah, that was in early to mid-October of 2024. That
fallow rut looked insane.
It was, I can't even put it into words of what it was. Like, the rutting action we experienced over there was just off its head.
You go.
There you go. I was going to say, I can't even comprehend what I saw. I was so desensitized to it. You'd have a 260 fallow buck walk past at 20 meters, wouldn't even look twice at it. Like, the caliber of deer and the genetics over there is just something you need to see to believe. I did shoot a really nice deer. I think he's mid 280s on the first day, actually. And that was something I said I wasn't going to do. You know, I really wanted to pick through these deer and find a 300 model. That was my goal going over there. And we're hunting with Joe, and we come in on this lek, and there was 60 bucks on it. Just, there was no silence. It was just croaking the whole time, and it was sort of creeping around looking at these deer, and it was a bit of a rise, and we crept up over, and we're poking our heads over, and I can see a few bucks, and there was a bedded deer about 30 yards down below us, and I couldn't see it. And Joe was really looking over it with the binos, and I was like, how good is it? And he's like, I think it's a shooter. I'm going, I'm not shooting one on the first day. Like, I've got 6 more days here to find one. And he turns around after about 10 minutes, and he goes, this is the one you're going to shoot. And I was like, no, I'm not. He goes, yeah, mate, this is 280 plus. Trust me, like, you'd shoot this one every day of the trip. And I couldn't see it at the time, and we sort of had a conversation about it and explained my situation, you know, that I didn't want to shoot one on the first day, and he assured me, like, this is one of the better deer that I'll shoot for the season. I was like, all right, I trust you. Anyway, I could see one palm. I couldn't see the other one. I obviously didn't want to stand up. Put an arrow on, and there was a gap in a tree. I was kneeling down. I drew back and then stood up through the gap, and there was about I think it was like a 10-inch gap through the tree, and he was laying front on. So it was 24 metres. He was slightly quartering front on. I had to hit him just through the bottom of the throat. Pretty easy shot, 24 yards anyway. I was like, all right, here we go. I'm going to shoot a deer on day one, when I told myself I wasn't going to. And, threaded the needle. The arrows come in. I remember when he stood up, there was this huge, big spray of blood when he first stood up. The arrows come out just of his back leg there, and he ran about 70 yards and fell over. He grew a lot when I walked up to him on the ground. Like, he was a far better deer than I thought he was initially. Old deer, heaps of mass, heaps of length, just everything you want. He did have a bit busted off out of his palm from fighting, which you can expect with so many deer there, but I was happy with the decision after that.
And how many tags did you have over there?
So it's just, you basically pay to play.
Yeah, okay.
So no tags, anything.
You want to go again, you just pay the money.
Correct. Yeah.
Trophy fee.
Yeah. So Joe was good to me, looked after me with a good price over there. I ended up shooting a second buck. I did find a giant. I found the buck of the season for them over there, and I hunted that guy for like 5 days straight afterwards. Had a couple fleeting opportunities, probably drew back on him like 7 or 8 times over those few days, and I just couldn't get a good shot. I could get a shot, but it wasn't 100%. So I don't like taking it, particularly on big animals. And I said to myself, if something cool happens, I'll take a shot and I'll shoot another deer. And I stayed out one day and we had really bad weather and it rained for like days on end. And I had hardly any warm gear, and I stayed out in the rain and I was shivering. And I remember one day there was a buck. He was about probably 285, 290, like really nice deer. And I went to shoot him and I couldn't draw my bow back from how cold it was. I was sitting there like full shivering. And I was like, far out. So I put my bow down and I was sitting next to a log for cover on this lek, and there's deer going around everywhere. And I remember I grabbed around this log and I just held this log to try and stay warm because I was full shaking. And the buck I wanted to shoot, it was about 40 yards away at the time, and it was kind of looking back at me and I couldn't stay still. I was shivering so much and I was trying to just use my body heat to stay warm. Anyway, that deer moved away, and 2 bucks. There was one buck grunting 20 yards from me for like an hour and a half, and he was a cool deer, and he started fighting with another deer, and I was like, oh, I'm going to shoot you. What? So put my phone on the Mag Pro so I could get the shot on film. Anyway, pretty much just walked up to like 12 yards, and I started on this trip, I was using a index back tension release. So for those who don't know, that's an index style release aid. You activate the trigger and you pull through the wall and it goes off by weight. So I've drew back on this deer and I was still like shivering at full draw, and I've come in off the wall and I've hit the trigger and the shot's gone off. The pin was still roughly where it needed to be, but I've hit him right in the point of the scap. Deers took off and I'm going, oh no, what have I done here? So I watched him run about 80 yards over a rise and it looked like he fell over. It was raining at the time, so I was like, I need to get on him because there'll be no blood. It's all trampled. You can't follow footprints because there are deer everywhere. Come over the rise. Here he is just walking away slowly, and he walks up to another buck, and I don't think I've really told this story before. He starts fighting with another buck with my arrow hanging out of him. And I'm just going, what the hell is going on here? And they fight for about, 15 seconds. Buck I've shot moves off, and the other one runs away, sees me and goes off. And I'm sort of spinning out at what I'm seeing. I was like, I've just shot this deer and he's fighting with another one. Like, what the hell? He went down another rise. I'm sort of following him slowly. He went down into, it was like a big ravine near the lek there, and come over another ledge, and here he is with another big buck there. And I sort of stopped. They walked up towards each other, and then they poshed it up, started fighting again. So he's fought with 2 different deer after I've shot him, and I'm just going, what's happening? Am I going to get this deer back? Like, the adrenaline he must have had would just been surging, and the shot was good. Like, it took out both his lungs. He fought with that deer, run off down the hill, in which he stopped in a creek, and I was hot up his ass by then. I was like, I've got to get another arrow in this thing, and he stopped in the creek, and I put another arrow through his chest at like 20. He pretty much fell over in the creek there, but having that many deer that I've shot a deer and he's fought with 2 different bucks
on the way out,
on the death run, I was just like, this is not real life, you know? So it was pretty cool. It was a really, really cool experience over there.
Do they manage them over there?
Not really. So hunting deer and bow hunting is not really a thing. So they're just not pressured. They are managed within the genetic pool on that particular property. I know Joe's had that for like 20 years, and they have done some genetic management, you know, taking out culls, all that sort of stuff, but the hunting pressure just is not there. It's funny, on the place we hunted, they have little leases for guys who'll hunt birds. So there'll be these Italian guys who'll go out with like 20 gauge shotguns and all little stuff like that, and they'll clear an area, and there'll be no leaves or anything on the ground. There'll be all branches, and you'll see a little marker around. And what they'll do is all the branches are for all the little birds to land on, and underneath that, they'll have birds in cages to call the other little, I don't know what they are, like finches and things like that, to call them in. And when these little birds come in to look at the noise and land on the stick, then they shoot them.
What do they do with them?
They eat them.
Huh.
Yeah, so they go out and shoot these little tiny little birds.
Yeah, right.
And that's like the hunting, and you'll go to a cafe or anything like that, and there'll be guys with shotgun cases sipping on their little coffees during the middle of the day, having a break.
Huh.
Yeah, it spun me out.
Didn't know that existed.
We're going out hunting, and I could just hear, on the first morning, we're going in on this grunting bark, and next thing, boom, boom, and I'm like, morning's done. And Joe's like, they don't worry about that. They hear that every day. And I was sort of like, nah, like, that's going to shut them up. And anyway, just keep grunting through it, and you'd hear multiple gunshots of a morning, and it'd be those guys there.
And instead of shooting bucks, they're shooting sparrows and shit.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. So fallow bucks and trophy hunting is not really a thing like it is over here.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Tell me about because we haven't spoken for a few years on a podcast. Tell me about the Reds in Argentina. That trip sounded sick.
That's gone back. Yeah, that was another cool
2 years
hunt.
ago?
No, that was...
Longer. We haven't spoken for a long time then. 4 years probably.
Yeah, it'd be 3 or 4 years easy. No, that was... That'd be 2021, I'd say.
Holy.
Yeah.
Just post-COVID.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just post-COVID. No, that was a really cool hunt there. That was not to the level of Italy, but you'd go out hunting, and if you couldn't hear a roar within 30 seconds, you'd go to a different area. You know, you'd drive the vehicle, the guys would stop the car, you'd listen, no roar within 30 seconds, you'd keep going. And I was like, oh, we can stay a little longer and have a listen, you know? And they're like, no, we'll find another area. And you'd get in. It was kind of hard hunting because you'd get in around you and there'd be 6 or 8 stags within like a 400-metre radius all roaring back and forth. And there was dominant stags, but because there was so much pressure, the hinds were just getting pushed from stag to stag to stag, and there was just deer running everywhere. So it wasn't like they were held up in this one spot, or you get into bow range and then another stag would come push in, then they'd run across over there. So it was quite frantic, the hunting, just because of the numbers of deer, you know. So you couldn't really make a sensible game plan. Like if it was over here, there'd be one stag holding his harem in this gully. You go like, okay, the wind's going this way, we'll make our approach. As the day gets on, he's going to go up further into the thick stuff, and you could be a bit calculated. Over there, you wouldn't know what was going to happen because of the sheer amount of deer there. You get in on a stag, and then a young satellite would come in, next thing they're gone. And then they'd bump into another stag, and then they bump them back, and it was just... You kind of had to be a little bit aggressive within reason, but had to have a bit of luck on your side as well. The stag I actually shot was, I believe, on the 3rd day. Myself and James Doomstis were driving along, and we spotted this stag on a dam. We weren't at the hunting grounds yet. We were sort of in this rolling hill country, and we spotted this stag just out of the corner of our eye at this dam, and he was having a drink. And I looked at James. I was like, that's a beast. I was like, that's like a 16-pointer. And we drove another probably 200 yards, and the guide was like, no, we'll keep going. And like, no, mate, like, car's getting parked here. We're going back after this thing. So he stayed at the car, and we went back to the dam, and the stag was gone. And we had an idea of the way he was going to head. So we're just trucking it through these rolling grass hills in this farmland, just pretty open, you know. And I'm roaring at him, and I can hear him like 500-600 in the distance going away. And we kept roaring at him, and we're slowly closing the gap. Then I started hind calling, and then he really got excited. He was in an area where there wasn't too many deer. So started hind calling at him. Knew he was sort of pulling up, so we sort of slowed our approach, and we come into, I think there was a rise, and on the other side of it, probably 80 yards away, we could see him. I could hear him rubbing his antlers on a tree, that's right. Here he's rubbing his antlers, and we knew he was in a little depression, so we sat up under this big shady tree, gave a few hind calls, waited about 2 minutes, and I was like, oh, he's definitely coming, like he hasn't made a noise, and gave a few more hind calls, and here he comes over the rise at like 60 yards, and he comes into like 30, and he roars a few times, and no idea we're there. Wind in our face, and he cuts across to my right, and I was at full draw when he put his head down at like 30, cut across, and I shot him top of the heart at 19 metres, and he done a big loop, run out, probably ran about 60 yards and fell over in frame. So it was pretty cool.
That's epic.
Yeah, it was an epic hunt.
Because I have watched the film for that, and there's some epic footage in there.
It's a bit of a bugger when I shoot him. He walks behind the tree. But it's like, what can you do?
It was a monster.
Yeah, he was an 8.8 that I shot. See, he was still a young deer, but I'm not going to let an 8.8 walk past when the best I've shot is a 14 pointer before that.
Yeah, well, it's an upgrade. And that's bow hunting is very personal in that way.
Yeah, for sure. And like, he's crazy looking deer, and he had a very different genetic profile to the typical Argentinian stags that we were seeing as well. Like, the guys were like, oh, this is quite different. It's got a different sort of bloodline than these deer here. I don't know whether it had a bit of an estate deer in it or something like that, but it's very different to what we were seeing there. They were very like, there was no management within reason. There was too many stags there, and there'd be a lot of like ratty deer missing thirds or fourth and things like that. So you get a lot of 4.6s and stuff like that. That wasn't, you know, your trophy animals. But this guy was very different. He stood out. So it was cool.
Do you know the history of reds in Argentina?
No clue.
Yeah, me neither.
No clue.
Yeah, interesting.
But there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder why. Well, it's a good country for them, I suppose.
Yeah, it was kind of like deserty sort of semi-arid country. It was all just really undulating, slow rolling hills. But I believe they have them all up in the mountains through there as well. So I think they're spread all throughout.
Right.
Yeah.
Tell me why you haven't prioritised elk.
The pressure. It's not as enjoyable.
The pressure of elk hunting.
Elk hunting in America. So I've been 3 times, haven't shot an elk, ate my tag every time. I've passed up a few. I've drew back on 2 bulls I had the intent of shooting, couldn't get a shot away. But the hunting pressure of the public land, I just don't enjoy it as much. Yes, it's a challenge, but it's like you'll hike into a basin, you'll spend 6 hours to get there, and there'll be 6 groups of guys at the top of the hill. And then there'll be another 4 groups bugling through the valley, and it's like, I just don't enjoy it. You're competing with other people, and it's almost you can't enjoy the hunting as much because you have to be competitive with others. And obviously, this is generalising a lot as well. You can get into other areas. But for me, the time I need to spend, the cost of it, I just can't justify it when I could go to New Zealand 6 times for 1 American hunt. That's the difference. And
I guess like for that rut, you sort of need to be there the whole month.
Particularly if you have a tag that's not that great, you need time. If you have time, you can do it. But if you just want to go over for like 7 or 10 days, your chances are significantly reduced, So that's, like, I do enjoy it. Like, I really enjoyed it. Last time I went over, I hunted for 10 days straight and I saw 2 elk in 10 days. Both bulls. I had a very good chance on one of them. The other I didn't. But I saw 2 animals in 10 days. And I'm not saying that that's not hunting, But I would get into spots and there'd be guys there. And I was like, fuck, I've just hiked in all day. Here goes my day gone. I'm going to go somewhere else, I called in some other hunters and all that sort of stuff. I just don't enjoy it as much. Am I being spoiled? Yes. But we have far better hunting opportunities over here, Australia and New Zealand, and some of the other hunts that I've done. And in the background, I'm just amassing points. So when I do go do those hunts, I'll have more points and I can get a better tag that's going to be more enjoyable.
Yeah, better units, and you can get private tags and stuff too.
You can, yes. If you want to pay, you can get sort of whatever you want. But if you have 10 years worth of points versus 2, you're going to get a far better tag.
You're going to get a high roll, yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of my reasoning with that. It's not that I haven't prioritised. I've done it 3 times. I've just been unsuccessful in that. It's probably one of the only hunts I've gone overseas that I haven't. Learn a lot about it, but I think me being a little bit picky about it as well has been the reason for that. Like, I could have shot raghorns and stuff like that, but I didn't want to kill one just for the sake of killing one.
Yeah.
So I was happy, I wanted a 6.6 or better or a big 5. I wasn't going to just shoot anything for the sake of saying I've shot an elk. I've killed enough animals. I don't need to do that.
That's a good attitude. Yeah. Attitude to have. Have you got any interest in sheep?
My bank account doesn't.
Mine neither.
Within reason, I think they're cool. Are they the smartest animal? I'd say no. It's just where they live. Like we spoke about the other day. It's like they're pretty dumb, but it's getting to them where they live, the country they live in, and it's a huge adventure and a trip to get into those things. Like one day, sure, but it's definitely not on the radar now. Like, there's a stack of other hunts I want to do before that. More challenging species as well, where you've really got to pit yourself against that animal.
Such as?
I want to hunt a hyena in Africa. That's just a random one that I've got. Don't ask me why. A couple other hunts, possibly an ibex with a bow. That would be pretty cool. And then again,
what sort?
I'm not
Mongolian
fussed.
or something?
I'm not fussed.
Yep.
I've looked into a few of those. New Zealand, tar. I haven't done the tar rut over there. I want to do that. I think that'll be pretty cool. We're sort of looking at doing a trip in May. But I haven't got specific animals. I know I'm going back over to Africa again this year. I just want to do Africa for the sake of Africa. Like, spot and stalk hunting in Africa when you're not shooting ridiculous distances is quite a challenge. Like, shooting animals at 30 yards in Africa is like, it's hard, man.
Hairy, yeah.
Yeah. So looking forward to that. Like, Africa is right up there on my list. Like, for everyone who sort of views it as you're sitting in the blind and it's all like high fence stuff, like, there's places that are wild Africa that you can go to still and challenge yourself with spot and stalk bow hunting.
And there's a sustainability. I love talking about this. There's a sustainability conservation initiative behind a lot of that hunting too that people don't realise. Can you explain that or elaborate?
Yeah, basically. So I would say in the majority of the bush, the only reason animals are there is through the efforts of hunting and its conservation. You know, hunters are paying the bills for them animals to be looked after. If hunters don't have a commercial interest in those animals, there is no money coming in to pay for the safekeeping and well-being of those animals. Like, the poaching and meat trade is just rife over there, you know. And I can sympathise with the locals. They don't have meat. It's like, if you're starving, you're going to do anything to feed your family. When I went on my second trip to Africa, we drove for about 7 hours to get to the hunting property. And in that 7 hours, I did not even see a bird on the side of the road. Like, I'm not exaggerating, like just nothing. And we drove through the middle of nowhere. And this is through all the villages, and they've just been hunted. There is absolutely zero management in those communities' minds. Again, I can sympathise with it. They're hungry, no protein, all that. You get to the property, you drive through the front gate, there's a giraffe. There's a wildebeest. There's this. There's that. And on the particular place we were hunting, they had, I want to say 14 full-time anti-poaching staff that would do that perimeter 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And they were catching 3 to 4 groups of poachers a week.
Wow.
Whilst having that anti-poaching there. So you can imagine, and the hunting lodge is paying for that. That's the only people paying for that. You know, the cattle farmer's not paying for that. He doesn't mind if there's not an impala there. But, yeah, so if there's no money driving those guys being paid, stopping the animals being poached, there's just going to be none left. They're going to get wiped out. And it's a proven concept time and time again. You know, and Robbie from Blood Origins, he tells a great story and he explains it really well. Obviously, I'm a lot more basic, but for those listening, like, if there's no hunting, there's no animals on those places within reason. Someone has to pay the bills.
It makes a lot of sense, and it's so hard that it's like villainized.
It is
on socials.
It is to the mainstream, you know, and I think there's a lot more education coming out around it, which is great. But I think it's just one of those things that it's such a taboo topic to talk about, and people will go, "Oh, how could you shoot this animal? How could you shoot that?" It's like, well, it's an animal. It feeds people. It's meat. There's no difference.
Kill one animal to save 1,000 too.
Yeah, that's right. You know, and we were talking about giraffes. This was with Russ and his partner Shanae, and she was saying, how dare people have an opinion on us eating giraffes when we have no meat out here? It's protein. It's no different to us getting a steak, but we're judging them for accessing this organic meat that's at their disposal. And they also need to manage the numbers as well. So who are we to judge?
Exactly. And I enjoy talking about it, and it's a very repetitive conversation topic, but I think it's very valuable because nobody in Australia is pushing it. I feel like that's actually another topic I'd be keen to talk about, is Australia is so far behind with the mentality around hunting, with eating wild game, with all of that sort of stuff.
With the eating of it, the management of it, and even the cultural perception of it. Like, you still get the thing, if you hunt, you're like a redneck to someone in the city. They're like, oh, you go hunting, and it's almost, you look down upon. I'll have an impartial conversation with anyone who's open to changing their mind on it, and you can have good conversations with people, but there is a portion of the public that are just, this is the hill I'm going to die on, hunting's bad, you know. And obviously there is some bad things that go on with hunting within Australia, and there's a bit of a cowboy culture that's slowly dying out, which I think has not helped giving us a good name in the spotlight. But yeah, like I'm seeing a lot of like game meat is becoming a thing now. People are cottoning onto it. This is healthy. This is organic. People want to go out and harvest it themselves. Even here in the store, shout out bow hunting only. Yes. We're getting people coming in and they're getting their first bow set up, and I'll say, what's your reasoning? What are you wanting to do? And they go, I want to go out and get my own meat. I don't want to get a gun. I want to do it with a bow. I want to learn the process. I want to harvest my own meat, and I want to have a freezer full of something that I've collected myself that's natural. And I'm seeing a lot more of that now lately. So I think that cultural shift to people going, actually, we don't want to buy what's at the supermarket because it's filled full of everything. We've got educated on that a lot more, particularly over the last 5 or 10 years. That's seeing a shift into the thinking that people are more okay with hunting. And it's funny, the people that are wanting to do this a lot of the times are from people like within the city. So you're getting these people who have had no exposure to hunting whatsoever going, I want to learn how to hunt. What do I do?
Which is awesome.
It's great. It's great. Like, it's fantastic. And I've done a lot of beginner courses, and I've taken people out who have never seen a wild animal before to harvesting their first animal with a bow on that but weekend, butchering it and taking the meat home to their family. And that is just such a wild thing to them, you know, like to not have seen a pig or a deer or a goat before to you're leaving 3 days later with an esky full of meat.
That you harvested yourself.
Yeah, with a bow and arrow. Like, it's pretty wild.
I think people have had enough too of being lied to by mainstream media, by pharmaceutical companies and all that sort of shit as well.
For sure. And I think information is more accessible these days. It's more accessible that you can put a blanket to the whole population. But if you want to learn something and find it, it's accessible. We can find it now. So a lot of people are waking up to going, hey, it's actually eating this stuff out of a pack. It's not good for me. This is why I feel tired. This is why I'm sluggish. You know, I think there's a lot more emphasis on the quality of food we're eating these days, which is great for hunting because it's the best free-ranging protein you can get, man.
It is, and it's necessary. Like, a lot of people, like, I don't have anything against vegetarianism and stuff, but geez, it'd be hard. It's hard.
It'd be shit, not hard.
I've tried, man, and it is. No, I haven't tried to be vegetarian, but I've tried to have, like, prioritise vegetarian meals and stuff, and I just can't get around it. I'm constantly hungry.
Yeah.
I have no energy, and I don't understand
Sounds great. Don't sign me up.
No, red meat for life. Explain to me how this growing hunting culture has affected your business and how you present your business, the products that you sell, the services that you offer.
So I would say bow hunting only has been modelled on... We built our name on high-end gear. I think that established a name and sort of the footprint, following along on the hunts on we do and harvesting big trophy animals. And, you know, there's almost a expectation that every year we have to shoot a big bull or stag or XYZ, you know. But with that, I think that's generated the following that they have now, that people who are getting into bow hunting, they will follow us along on those hunts and they'll try and learn and everything like that. So what we find is, I would say probably 50% of the setups we sell nowadays are people totally getting into archery. So we've had to mold our offerings to, I would say beginner setups, but to cater for people who haven't hunted before, you know. I won't sell cheap gear here. Like, we're not about just selling cheap and nasty gear to get you out the door with something. I'm about setting people up with quality gear that's suited to them, that's going to last and they will enjoy. You know, there's a lot of stuff out there that can be cheap and nasty, bang it out the door, here's your bow,
give me your money,
good luck. You know, I want to set someone up that they enjoy it. If they enjoy what they're doing, if their bow is nice to shoot, comfortable and works, that's going to be a lifelong customer. It's going to be someone who's going to actually go, okay, I'm good at this, or I can be good at this, I enjoy this sport, I'll continue doing it. That's what we're about. You know, like we say to everyone, if you get your bow, we'll spend the time, we'll set you up with it. If you have issues with it, just come back until it feels right. You know, we'll shoot it in store, we'll coach you about it. Like, we want you to get the most out of your bow that you've got, so you will keep doing this sport, as opposed to go, this is too hard and too hard basket, put in the bin. I think on to the next.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realise how costly it can be too. With, like, they come in with this unrealistic expectation of what bow hunting or what a setup costs. Yeah. And it's nowhere even close.
Yeah, it's not cheap. Like, if you want to get a high-end setup, you could come in and spend $5,000 or $6,000 with, like, everything, you know. But within saying that, you only need one. Yeah. It's not like fishing rods or rifles where you're going to have multiples. With a bow, you can get away with one. Obviously, having a backup bow is great, you know, but you buy one quality setup, you've got that for 5 years, 5 to 10 years. So that's the good thing with that. You know, you can gauge people. You come in and go, have you tried this? Are you into it? And if someone's already hunting with a rifle or anything like that, it's like, I know you're going to get into this. You're going to get your money's worth out of it. Like, you're going to stick with this for years. So it is an easier decision for them to make when they only need to buy one and it's already a route they're traveling. So yeah, it is expensive, but you need one. That's the advantage.
I guess word of mouth from a business perspective has a lot of leverage here too, because the bow hunting community is reasonably small and the hunting community is small as well.
Yeah.
And I guess it pays to have that after sales service and to know your shit too. Like, you blokes are very analytical with how you set things up and why you do certain things and how you do them, and you want this.
It's the gear that we use and why.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's very easy, when we were talking about this before, it's easy for me to recommend a product to someone and almost overstep what they want, because when someone's starting out, it's like, I know what's going to work for you in the hunting scenario. And what we're big on is recommending gear that we've tried, used, ourselves, you know. So it's like, this is my experience with this product. This is why it works. This is the pros. This is the cons. So it's a lot easier to recommend gear to people when they've seen you go on all these hunts. They know you walk the walk, basically. You're shooting animals. It's not like you just work in an archery store. It's like we're out there hunting. You know, like we'll close the store so the boys can go hunting and go on trips and stuff. But with that, I'm comfortable. Everything I can recommend to people that's on the shelves here, I've used myself. So it's like, I'm comfortable in knowing that they're using gear that works. And there will be times where people will come in and beginners, and you can tell they've been on forums, and it's like they'll have this dossier of, I need this and I need this and I need this, and I'm like, okay, well, can you tell me why you need this and how it's going to benefit you as a new archer where your form's not going to be as good, XYZ? And they're like, oh, because this is the best. I'm like, well, it's probably not the best for you starting out on your archery journey. It's going to do more harm than good for you. And we have those conversations, and I know personally I've upset people and like really fought them on things. Like, ultimately, if someone wants something, most of the time I'll do it if that's what your heart's set on, but I'll challenge your views on it and say, why is this the best product for you when you don't have the experience? Obviously, when guys know what they're doing, easy, use what you want. But people starting out and they'll want this $1,000 sight, and I'm like, hey, probably not the best, probably too many moving parts. You probably don't really need a slider sight when you've never even shot a bow before and hunted. Let's just get you on a fixed pin sight that's not going to move and it's just going to be set for you. How about we do that? You know, so that's what I like to be able to do, is we set people up and they have their setup that works and people get the most out of it.
Was it a hard slog trying to build this business from you basically bootstrapped it, yeah. You're still building it, yeah.
Yeah, still building. I would say yes, but I think it's just the nature of the beast with anything, you know, like my other business, Primabolics, the supplement brand, it's been the same. It's been a slog now. It's just the scale's increased. So it's like, if you're always chasing more, you're always going to be struggling. So, but in saying that, I enjoy what we do. It's like you get to come to work and talk about bow hunting. Like, it's like you can't have a shit day within reason doing that. It's like at the end of the day, you're talking about what you're passionate about, and then you're going to go and do it on the weekend as well. So I enjoy the process. I've learned a lot over the past few years, and I know we've added a heap of value to people as well. So that's really good as well. I've made a lot of friendships along the way. Some of my best mates I met through this store since we've started, which is awesome. But there has been their challenges, you know. In saying that, it's not as hard as you would think as well. You just got to have a go.
And I think the having the go part is probably a good thing worth touching on, because like people don't realize what it actually takes to do things like this. It's all well and good to say I want to make my passion a business, or my hobby a business, or whatever, but to actually achieve that, it's a massive gap you got to jump.
Oh, for sure. And you got to take that risk to start with. You've got to go into that unknown. I remember when we started, we had the studio, and myself and Jack Crick, my business partner, we were having a conversation. We were answering, and we were happy to do this, you know, like we were selling arrows and broadheads with Nexus and Ozcut, and we were talking to people about hunting boots or packs or XYZ, and more than happy to give all this information out to people. And I was like, it's not really a store where people who work there are flat out bow hunters, you know. It's like I'm answering all these questions, and don't get me wrong, I was more than happy to do it. I would say to everyone, if you have questions, I'll give you advice, you know, and I tell them use XYZ, these are my thoughts on it, and you'd send them off to another store and they get it. And I was kind of like, well, we're doing all the work already. Why don't we have a store? So we needed a bigger warehouse for our supplement brand and whatnot. So we're like, we'll just put a little storefront in and just do it as a trial, see how we go. And that was 3 years ago. Rest is history. It was after the first 6 months, we're like, okay, we're onto something here. This is clearly going to work. So 3 years ago, haven't looked back.
And you pre all of that too, because you and we touched about this on our first podcast. It was you were in the mines, and you had enough of that lifestyle. So you bootstrapped one of your businesses.
Pretty much both.
Yeah, you bootstrapped everything from scratch.
Pretty much, yeah. We winged the shit out of it. Like I look back and I was like, fuck, I was dumb back then. Like some of the things we done, but my personality is like that. I'll make something work. Like if I put my mind to something, I'm going to do this. It's going to work. It's like there was times along there where I was like, probably 99% of people would have quit and went, no, this is too much. I'm burning too much money, whatever. But in my mind, it's like if you just stick at it, it's going to work eventually. It's like keep showing up, putting in the work. You're going to be onto a winner eventually. So that's like my mindset with that. And if we lost everything, if this all burnt down, we had no insurance, like I'm not going to go work a job. I'm going to start something again. You know, it's just going to take me longer. So it's like almost don't have that in me. Like, we'll just make it work. That's the mindset that I have. And you have to as well. Particularly, I left a really high-paying job in the mines. It's hard to leave that. You have that security, you know, that paycheck's coming in every week. You go do this, and it's like, oh, I've got to do this to eat now. So it's like you realise how hard you can work when you really need to and you have to pay your bills. So taught me a lot. It's taught me a lot about risk as well. But what I'd say to everyone else is, if you have a dream or an aspiration or anything like that, it can't come into fruition if you don't try. It's just going to be a dream. Don't let your dreams stay dreams. Like, you actually have to take action and do it. And it's okay if it doesn't work, because you can try again and do something else. Like, if you don't try, it's never going to happen. Like, someone's not going to come out and magically do it for you. You're going to stay stagnant doing what you're not wanting to be doing for the rest of your life. So that sits pretty heavy on my mind as well.
100%. A failure is always a lesson. Like, 100%. It's just people choose not to take it.
Yeah. And the expensive ones you learn the most out of. Like, and that's fact, man. And like, I've had plenty of those and still will. I look back 5 years ago versus 4 years ago versus 2 years ago versus 12 months ago, and it's like, where we are on that journey, or your knowledge of business, it's exponential. It's like, you look back 2 years and like, what was I doing?
Yeah.
And I'll probably look at that point in 12 months time from now. So it's like, if you're constantly growing and evolving, that's all you can do. Keep showing up and it's going to work.
Explain to me, you mentioned it just before, but explain to me the value of saying yes and then figuring the rest out later.
Opportunities, man. Like, you'll get opportunities every day, but you'll only be able to turn it into something if you say yes to that. You know, if you wait for the right time, anything like that, it's just you and your insecurities about yourself, your business, whatever, that's going to hold you back ultimately. Obviously, there is things within business where it's right opportunity, wrong time. I think there is reasons with that, but as opposed to saying yes to having a go and trying and delving into something different, or learning a new skill, trying something, I think you have to say yes, or have that mindset as a person. You know, you have to say yes and have to be willing to fail. That's the hard part, the willingness to fail. People they'll say, oh, it's not perfect yet. It's like, mate, it's never going to be perfect. It's like, get 80% of it right, figure out the next 20%. I think I'm a big believer in that. Get the majority of it right and figure it out as you go, because everything changes. Consumer trends change, business trends change, the economy changes, and we're constantly evolving. So that's all well and good if you get it figured out, but you've got to start to do that. So that's my attitude. You know, say yes to a lot of things, take risks. If it doesn't work, okay, great, now we know that doesn't work, on to the next. But I've definitely learnt a lot about saying yes to the right opportunities, and there'll be times, and this is more within a financial scope, is saying no to things that aren't at the right time, or putting it further down the pipeline. So that's something that I've been more privy to over the last few years as well, because it's like, we're at a scale now, it's like, you can't just pull $20 out of your sock drawer and go, oh, we'll try this now. It's like, everything's a big financial investment to do.
What do you think the main reason is behind the negative stigma around failure?
I think people are just scared about people's perceptions or thoughts of them. It's, people are trying to appease everyone else in their lives, and it's like, you know what it's like, man. Negativity stands out the loudest. Like, 10 people will say something nice about you, but someone will call you a wanker, and that's what's going to stand out at the end of the day. And you're like, well, 10 people said all these good things about me. It's just human nature, what we're sort of predisposed to listen to. So once you learn that someone more successful than you is never going to put you down, it's like, you go to the gym, someone bigger or stronger than you is never going to laugh at you for trying. You get that mindset and you don't worry about what people think, you're going to be winning in life. So it's hard. Like, I've had it all. Like, people will put you down, people will say things about you, and it's like, man, I'm just trying to add to the bow hunting community here. It's like, I'm trying to do good things. It's like, I'm not saying bad things about XYZ, but you're doing things, you're making waves, it's human nature, it's going to happen. And I think the more success you get, the louder it's going to be, but you just have to block that out. So I think a lot of people are scared of judgment. Truly. Do you find that?
I agree. But it's like you said, it's always the people that can't do it, won't do it, don't have time, are a direct competitor and feel threatened rather than the growing the pie scenario.
Yeah.
It's normally always those people that aren't really, their criticism isn't really valuable anyway, but people choose to let that weigh on them.
Well, it does suck to hear at times as well when you have people saying nasty things about you or your business. Like, you're going to take it personally. You're like, why are they saying this? Like, put my heart and soul into this. But you learn that their opinion doesn't matter. You don't live your life to appease these people. It's like you don't have a smile on your face and think about this person. It's like you're doing it for you. So for anyone out there like who has something they want to do or whatever, just put all that aside and try it. What's the worst that can happen? You try and you fail. Move on.
Exactly. I've gotten to the point over the last couple of years where I just don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care.
It's great.
I don't shit on people, and I don't try and take bread from people's, like, food from people's tables and all that sort of stuff. I'm big on growing the pie, and I know a lot about, like, a lot of people that talk shit about me and what I do and what I'm up to and stuff. And I can guarantee you that if I called them out on it face to face, they'd all fold.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
can almost guarantee it, because everyone loves that sort of stuff, especially in these smaller niches like bow hunting, fishing, all of that. It's so small that everybody knows everybody, and I know a lot of people, and I hear a lot back, and I never hear it up front. I never get a message, I never get a phone call, I never get a text message that says, hey man, I think you're a dickhead for doing this, or anything like that.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
It's human nature, man. It's just an unfortunate side of it, but you put that aside and it's like, who am I doing this for? It's myself. It's like, okay, how does this make you feel? And obviously, like, yes, there is going to be close people around you and have your circle, but it's also okay to, and that you'll have this, there'll be people that family members will be judgmental of it. Like, that's a big one. Like, it doesn't matter what your auntie and uncle think about what you're doing if they think you're wasting your time. You're doing it for you. You know, chances are they're probably going to be sitting at home on a weekend watching you on social media doing XYZ or judging away while you're doing something. So there will come a time where you'll have to go against the grain of family members, close friends, and all that. It's hard, but you're better off for it. And you'll find, I've certainly found, I have a very small circle of friends that are very loyal, great friends to me, and they're all stoked for what we're doing, and we all build each other up and just happy that everyone's winning. The sooner you get a circle of people around you like that, the more you'll succeed. You know, like, you are a product of your environment. You know, if you've got people around you talking about, doesn't even have to be business, just bettering themselves or improving, or you'll find that it will excel you or accelerate you on that journey as well. So, like, if you've got just dead shits in your life, just cut them out, because you'll be a dead shit if you hang around them. You know, it's quite cliche, but it's true.
Sometimes you just have to too, and it's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to just cut people off that care but devalue you. Like, they're the ones that sort of...
Well, they care on the surface.
Yeah. There's a saying, nobody wants you to do better than them. It's a bigger quote than that, but it's like basically everyone's your friend until you start doing better, and then everyone thinks, oh, you're too good for us, type thing.
Yeah, correct.
How do you manage the people that you can't escape, so the family and all that sort of stuff, and where they're sort of against you, but you're sort of obligated to a degree to have them a part of your life?
I would say I'm quite fortunate. Like, obviously I've had like distant relations and things like that question what I was doing back in the day when I was starting out. You know, I got cousins with degrees, and like my sister's a psychologist, and I don't know what you call me, but
I hope she hasn't tapped into your brain.
And you get all that, but it's like, I've been quite fortunate. You know, they've been quite supportive. Obviously, my appetite for risk is almost infinite. Everyone else is a little bit more reserved, so we're going to have differences of opinions. But at the end of the day, my thought on it is we're allowed to disagree. You know, like, you can love your family members, X, Y, Z, but you're allowed to disagree with your thoughts. Ultimately, I'm living life for me. It's like, I hope they're proud of me, but this is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing this journey, and it's for me ultimately. So that's why. Everyone has a different reason. Everyone has different things that make them ticks, and we're all individuals. So that's what it comes down to at the end of the day.
How do you identify an opportunity that's right for now, aside from the finance side of it, but an opportunity that arises that you create for yourself or whatever, how do you identify that it's right for right now, or whether you should park it or it's a bad idea? So
I've heard the quote, you can do anything, but you can't do everything. And that's big on me. Like, I'm ADD, like flat out. Like, brain does not stop. There's like, he's laughing in the background. There's a million ideas that go on in my head, and like, I have so many ideas that I want to action, and it's that risk versus reward. It's like, I can action this idea at the detriment of the 5 other things I'm doing at the moment. Is it worth that? Generally, probably not. But if it is, it's like, okay, I'm going to put this to the side and I'm going to go down this route here. And we've had a few things with that we've done. But it's just that risk versus reward. It's like, can you justify this? Do you have the time and energy to put in this? And at what detriment to what you're currently doing? You got to weigh all those up. And if you're going to have a net positive, or you believe you'll have a net positive, then it's worth trying. And it's also, how much do you want to grow and what's your risk appetite? It's like, are you doing good with your business? Are you making good money? Everything's working well. Do you want to risk disrupting that? Where are you at? Everyone's different. So you've got to weigh up factors. Like, everyone has a different scenario. Like, I don't have a family to feed, so obviously I can be a little bit more gung-ho with those things. There might be someone with 4 kids depending on them and a stay-at-home mum. It's like, you probably can't take as much risk. So it's all personal within that reason. It's just risk versus reward.
And if you were to generalize the whole risk, because you need to be successful in business, you need to take risks.
Yep.
It's as simple as that. How, if you were to generalize that to do risk assessments, what are some key things you're looking for? I know it's hard. That's a hard answer because it's very general. It is a hard
specific one, and it's very specific to your current situation as well. But I'd say the earlier you are in your journey with it, the higher likelihood you're going to have failures with it. You know, like when you're 1, 2, 3, 4 years into your business journey, like, expect a lot of things are going to fuck up, because they do. And it's happened to me as well. But as you refine it more and more, you can go into things with a lot more confidence. You've got that background experience. We've done things like this before, and you kind of know how the framework of things work. So you'll find that as you start out, that's like when you fumble along, that's when you got to learn. And then 10 years down the track, it's like, okay, we've got a far higher strike rate here. Let's put more capital into this. Let's dive at this at a deeper rate, you know. But at the start, it was just like, I know for me personally, like, we'd try new things or do things, and it was like, man, like, that just went down in smoke. But with me, I was like, all right, what's the next thing? Like, on to the next. And I had that mentality from the start, because I said to myself, I had this kind of epiphany. I was like, well, I'm currently working in the mines right now. I hate working in the mines. If I start a business and fail, I'm going to go back to working in the mines. Okay, that's worst case scenario. And I was like, if I don't start, I'm going to keep working in the mines. So I was like, I cannot lose here. And I put in my head that it's only money. It's fake. There's heaps of it out there. You can go and get it. And that changed my perspective moving forward. I was like, I can't lose if I try. At least I've tried.
That's a really good mindset, I think. And a lot of people lack that with the whole, I don't have time, or I don't
think they lack the mindset. I think there's fear holding them back from doing it.
They go out of their way to find excuses why they shouldn't.
Justifying why they can't do it. Like, there'll be that desire to do it, but there's all those internal factors holding them back from it. And I think it's sad. It's sad. You know, a lot of people don't reach their full potential because they never try. They don't go outside their lane. Some people don't want to do it either. All well and good. As long as you're truly doing life for you and what makes you happy, you know. Like, but if there's people out there and you want to do something, I know I have friends that have wanted to do things for 10 years and they tell me the same thing over and over. And I say, what do you think I should do first? And my answer is always the same. Start. Just do something. Fumble along, start. Doesn't matter, because you've taken that first step. And in 10 years' time, you look back and that first step is what got you to that point in 10 years' time. But if you don't take that step, you're not going to be there.
Yep. And I think I lost the first thing I was going to say. I had a really good quote there. I can't remember what it was. I think, like, the starting part is probably the biggest hurdle for most people. Like, because once you start, the momentum grows quite quickly if you're willing to put the energy in.
Correct. And the momentum also stops quickly as well. It does. But yeah, starting, once you put that foot out the door and go out and into the wild, so to speak. I know for me, I just went all in from it. One day I woke up when I can't do this anymore. I quit. It was like that. It wasn't planned, and I was like, fuck.
Now what?
I've got to make this work now. And I had zero clue. So I was really pressured to make it work. And, like, I had this sense of pride that I didn't want to go scurrying back and go, oh, can I actually have my job back, please? I'm an idiot. So I had that there, and I wanted to make it work so badly that I did. If you want something bad enough, you'll make it happen.
Do you think, I know at least for me, business, if I was to explain it, is a constant feeling, or personal growth in business is a constant feeling of discomfort.
Yeah.
It is literally and a lot of people can't handle that. The anxiety or the stress or the worry of whatever, or the negative feedback from people, all that sort of thing. I think, the constant feeling of discomfort is a really good way of describing bootstrapping a business. Definitely.
And even just things that happen in business along the way, like, it's not easy, because if it was, everyone would be doing it, you know. But you learn to disassociate, and it turns, for me, it goes from stress to I have tasks to do, to I have a lot of tasks to do. So a lot of, like we we're talking about before, all those little things, but I try not to stress about it because that's not going to do anything. It's like, say we have issues, okay, I've got to do X, Y, Z to fix that. I will do that. As opposed to going, oh no, the roof is on fire, what do I do? You're going to do those logical things. You're going to make the best decisions for your business. And that's something I'm big on as well. And you're going to do that, and you're going to do it to the best of your ability. Stress, you can't stress about it. You just have to roll with the punches and do it. Because as your business gets bigger, the problems get bigger. So it's like you can't stress more because it doesn't do anything. You just have to be better about it and be more efficient. So just detaching from that, and I think I'm quite good at it, probably too good at it, detaching from it, is a really good tool that's allowed us to sort of go on the path we have, I guess.
This expo is a very good example. Is like, I haven't done an expo before, but I can see the value from it. So this was one of those, and we'll figure it out. Like, it's a massive outlay in money. It's a massive outlay in reputation. It's a massive lean on like friends, colleagues, networking, all that sort of stuff to kick this off the ground. But the potential it has to give back to the community / the business / exposure for my businesses, all of that sort of stuff. It's one of those things where I'm like, the same mindset as you is like, say yes and then figure it out, because it's not impossible, because I know who to talk to. I know what it looks like. I just got to figure out how to do it.
Yeah, and you're not just doing it you're not just doing one expo.
No.
This is going to be something that you're going to build on for years and years. And like, mate, if you go backwards for 2 years, but it becomes a raging success for the next 20 years, well, how great's that? And you're going to learn every time you do this, you're going to be better and better and better. It's going to get bigger and bigger. That's the goal anyway. And you're going to learn from it, but you can do it. You just got to try. It's like everyone else was just a normal person before they'd done something. So it's like, yes, this might be a smaller expo in comparison to some of the bigger ones, but next year people are like, oh, that was actually pretty cool. There was a good group of people there, and you're going to have good media with it. It's like, it's going to grow again and then again and again, and you're going to capitalize on that compounding growth.
Yeah, I agree. And it like I was saying, the momentum, like, it can snowball very quickly.
Yeah.
And we're fortunate enough to have some big brands backing us and stuff for the expo. And
I think bow hunting only is going.
Yes,
yeah,
they are. I would hope so. Yeah. So it's good to have like people that just go, yeah, I'll back you, like, and inherit some of that risk.
Yeah. But it's like together, like, I'm sure if it was just you pushing it, would it work? Yeah, probably. But it's like you get all these groups in and people behind it. Like we were chatting today, it's like, are we going to do content to push this? Are we going to really push the word out there to people? It's like you get your little community and your circle of friends and businesses pushing it. That's going to grow the pie a lot quicker. So like, I'm excited for it. You know, Australian expos, we have nothing particularly in the hunting side of things. Obviously there's outdoor expos and stuff, but having like a dedicated hunting and fishing expo, it's great. Like, I always get so much value interacting with people at expos that you might talk to on social media and all that sort of stuff, but being able to put a face to a name and shake someone's hand that you spoke to for 5 years and actually meet and interact with, and also just talk to new customers as well, it's great. Like, I really like doing it. Like, I leave expos and I don't have a voice from talking so much. So it's going to be a good event. I
agree. And I did toss this up. It's called the Flow State Outdoors Expo, and I...
Shout out.
Yes. Sneaky plug I've done in the last couple of episodes, to be honest. But we were contemplating calling it the Flow State Hunting and Fishing Expo. But the word hunting gets so crushed by algorithm and all the left-wing media and all that sort of stuff. It's like borderline impossible to promote.
There goes your paid advertising.
Yeah, it's done now.
Yeah. But that also opened you up for like growth in your future as well.
Yeah.
It's like outdoors. That's hunting, but you can have all those other aspects of it as well. So you're not pigeonholing yourself, which I think is really smart.
Exactly. I think, and which is what I'm trying to do. I'm not being reserved as in scared to promote things, but reserved to be able to work in with Facebook's algorithm, for example, and trying to make the best out of everything.
You got to play the game, man.
Yeah. And that's another part of business too, like sort of going with the flow and working with the times. Everyone fights, I hate social media and I hate reels and I hate this and I hate that, but it's there. Like, you have to do it. You have to do it.
Yeah. And it gives you that competitive edge. It's like, we've gone from paid advertising to this. It's like, just do what the consumer wants and the market wants, and you'll get yourself out there more. Like, it's just smart. Solving
Problems, I think, is a huge one for businesses too. I think looking at it as in, what can I do for the consumer that fixes a problem that's widespread, and then how do I make money from that? Because like people go, oh, like they're making this much money from these fucking things. Like, yeah, there's markup on every product and every service, but how do you fucking expect that business to grow and scale and help you more and add more value?
And that's the thing, the value add is a big one.
I think, and that's where your after sales service and all that sort of stuff is that, like, it probably, if you were to put a monetary figure on it, it would cost you for the after sales service and the phone calls that take 15, 20 minutes, half an hour to customers. But the value of that for the customer outweighs their spend on the product.
For sure. And like we've got people, and I know there's a lot of people that haven't bought a single thing from us that will still buy from their local stores, but will ring to pick our brains about products and the applications of them, or what arrow setup would you use for this animal. You know, happy to give that info out, because will they be a customer one day? Maybe. But you're sort of adding value to that person. The word of mouth from that, they're like, hey, those boys know what they're doing, and they might put one of their friends onto it, so he lives around here. Something like that. But I really think we do so well because we can give that first-hand product knowledge to people, because we do it, we use it, we're out there, as opposed to someone who's read something online, because it's very, very different.
I agree. On the expo front, are you guys going to be hanging out, like doing talks? What are you going to be doing there?
I don't know, mate. What do you want me to do? I haven't planned that. But yeah, I'll happily talk down there, but we'll bring all the boys down. We'll bring a bunch of bows down, gear. Might bring some mounts down. We'll see how we go. Probably have Hoda go around with the camera, meet some people. Just interact with everyone. So come down. And that's
one thing I did want to really push with this expo is we were just on the topic of value adding, is being able to give more than just expo that has just retail and people go and buy shit when they can just go into the shop and do it anyway.
Yeah.
There'll probably be a few deals and a few shops will be doing stuff, but I want to really do some really good prize draws and have people there speaking and stuff like that. So we're going to do some cooking demos and things for people learning how to butcher wild game, cook wild game, different ways of cooking it, instead of just the back leg backstrap crew.
Yeah.
And all of that sort of stuff, and then go into the night and do some talks and stuff. And I've nominated you to sit up on stage and talk some shit.
I can do that. And we're doing it now. So
yeah.
Easy done.
So I think that's where a lot of value add will come from this event in itself. Yeah, you can go and buy product and talk to people and network and all that sort of stuff, but you can also get a lot more than your spend.
Yeah.
Coming.
Yeah, and it's doing it in that first-hand environment as well. You're not doing it through a screen. Yeah. It has a human element to it. Like, it's so much better doing something in person as opposed to looking at a screen to learn. People can see it happening firsthand, particularly with all that cooking and butchery stuff, which is so hard to access if you have no idea what you're doing. But that whole value add thing, have in my mind, it's like educate or entertain people. That's what they want. And you're going to do both in person.
I agree. And I think just with this, for example, I haven't done a podcast remotely ever. I'm 50-something deep. I think there's huge value in just the personalism. Like, you can have such a more laid back and detailed chat. It doesn't have to be scripted. And I had no idea what we're going to talk about.
And I still don't.
Not really.
I've spent like the last 4 days with you, mate.
Yeah, literally. And we still couldn't chew through an hour and a bit. But just hanging out with like people and I don't know. I feel like there's so much more that I get from doing these things. And I'm sure that you do too, from you to the consumer as well.
Yeah.
Rather than having just an online store presence, you actually have a physical storefront and people being able to come in and have a conversation and hang out and talk shit. Like, I've been sitting around here for 2 or 3 hours.
Well, look at us. This is the second time I've met you.
Yeah.
In my life.
Yeah.
And it's like, you wouldn't think that though, would you?
Nah. And we've talked heaps.
Like, you've been in the shop like Friday, and then we went fishing on Sunday, here today as well. But it's like, I met you once prior to that. But I spoke to you on social media for so long. It's kind of weird, hey?
It is. And like the mutual friend thing and like, it is actually, it's very weird when you think about it.
Second time I've met you.
Yeah. And it's just normal. Like, I feel like I've known you for 10 years.
Yeah. And I classify you as one of my mates. It's like, I've met this guy twice.
Yeah.
You know?
It's weird how people like that click too. And that's another thing business does. People that get it. Like, and you can try and explain it as much as you want in as many different ways as you want to someone that doesn't get it, and they will never get it.
Correct. I have a thing with this with hunting as well, to go a little bit off topic. You know how you talk about like the whole hunter-gatherer, everything? It's like, I see some people and it's like, you used to pick berries back in the day, bro. Like, some people get it and some people do not. It's like, it's so natural for someone to pick up on animal behaviour and all things like that. And other people, it is the most forced, hard-learnt thing that they can do. And I just find it fascinating how some people just, like you said, they just get it, and then others just do not and really struggle. Sorry to digress there a little bit.
No, it's very applicable. I think that goes for a lot of things too. Is it makes you wonder how many generations they've been removed from, like their ancestors, for example, probably would have died.
Yeah, probably.
You know what I mean? Like or
pick the berries.
Yeah, or pick the berries.
Yeah,
literally. But yeah, like you wonder how many generations that's sort of been removed from that from their lifestyle for them to get to a point where they have a massive disconnect between humans and the natural environment.
Yeah, because it's the thing. Like I see it when I take people firsthand. You know, it's like this person would perish if the shops did not exist. You know, like it's pretty scary to think that. I know myself, like the zombie apocalypse comes, like, oh, sweet, go fishing and hunting now. So I don't have to worry about taxes. All good. But like the majority, I'd say the vast majority of people, you'd be in serious strife. You know, so it's just funny. It's like, where in our lineage, what did we do back in the day? It's like, I don't really know about my family history or anything like that. But I know hunting for me, it just feels so instinctively right. Like, it's like, when I'm hunting, I'm like, this is what I was put here for to do. Like, it just feels so right. And it's hard to explain to someone. You sound like a weirdo saying it, but it's like, when you're in the zone doing it, it's like, this is what I was built for.
And I feel like it goes beyond, and it's probably very similar to your circumstances, because you weren't like brought up into bow hunting. You learned it yourself. Like, you put yourself in that position. It feels like that it's not whether the fact that you were brought up with it, that your parents did it or your family did it. Yeah, it adds value, and it is highly likely to push you down that road. But some people are just born to do certain things. Like genetically freak athletes are the same.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like.
Yeah, and it's like with me, like I don't know why I wanted to go hunting. Like, I didn't have that much influence on it. Like, there wasn't family members saying do this. Like, fishing, yes, 100%. Like, Dad and all that, we fished, and like that's what we done together. But like, I was like, I just want to go hunting though. Like, still, I love fishing equally as much as hunting, particularly now. But yeah, I had that desire, and I was like, I have to do this. This is what I'm here for. This is what I need to do, and I can't explain it. It's just there within me. But in saying that, this is something I haven't really spoken about. Probably 6-8 months ago, I really lost my passion for hunting because I'd done so much of it, and like. If you notice, I didn't hunt winter boars once last year. Didn't do it once. And I was just to the point where I was like, I just didn't have that spark there when I was doing it. I was like, I'm just not that keen to do it. And I had a really good run on them early in the year, and I shot like 10 or 11 boars in 7 days. And I was like, fuck, this is a bit easy at the moment. Like, truly, like, I'd go to a spot and then, yep, there he is, shoot him, you know. And I was like, I'm not getting that challenge, and I was just had other things going on as well, but I was just like, I wasn't about it. So I purposely didn't do it for months on end. I started snapper fishing and random stuff like that, you know, and I pretty much didn't hunt all winter. I had 6 months off it, and then I got the bug again before Italy in the Northern Territory, and I was like reignited that flame, and it's like even more than ever now. So I think it was healthy for me to have that break as well, but that was the first time in my life that I hadn't hunted for months. Like, that was just so out of character for me. Like, typically in winter, I'll spend 3 days a week in the bush, every week, through the cooler months, from the rut through to like September, every single week without fail. And I didn't hunt for like 5 months. And
I think there's value in identifying when that is, because that call it burnout, I guess.
Yep.
Happens in business, happens in your hobbies and what you're passionate about, and people like villainize that as well, and having a break, and they end up stopping because they have a break.
Yeah.
It's like you could have kept going down that path and just been like, oh, I'm happy not hunting.
Yeah.
But you kept looking, like you had other opportunities, like you had other hunts booked and doing new things.
Yeah, and it was more like I knew that doing it would be good for the long run as well, and that's why I done it. I was like, I'm just going to not do this, so when I just get so keen, I'll be going again, it'll be good, and I'll be doing it organically because I want to do it. And like, we got so many hunts planned next year. Like, Hoda's calendar book is just filling up flat out.
That's
like,
too good.
We've pretty much got a hunt a month happening, like big style of hunt, like every month or 6 weeks for this whole 2025 so far. So I'll still throw a few more in there, but it's like so genuine, like I'm frothing to do it. Like, I'm so excited about all these hunts we've got coming up. It's like, whether we're filming it or not, I'm going. So it's like organically me doing it because I want to and I love it. So I think that's the most important thing as well when you are doing that sort of stuff, because you can see when it's genuine versus when it's not as well. You know, like there's so many things in life that are just fake that you don't even know are real. But it's like, I know for me, it's like if social media didn't exist, I didn't have a cameraman following me around, all that stuff, I would still be doing this and enjoying it just as much. You know, it's just true to me doing it. So that 6 months was different, but it was very important for me to do. And I sort of didn't really publicise it that I wasn't hunting. I just didn't go. And it was funny. I had people messaging me going, hey, like, you okay? Yeah, like literally, like, you haven't shot a boar in like 3 months. What are you doing? And I was like, oh, having a break from hunting, you know. But like, people noticed it, as like a few people noticed it as well. So I guess it's when it's part of your identity and you just stop doing that for a while, people are going to notice.
Because there's an expectation.
Within reason, yeah. So I find that on trips a little bit, that expectation a little bit. I think I put a bit of the pressure on myself. Like, you obviously went to the Northern Territory, for an example. I wanted to go up and shoot a giant bull, and we found a giant bull, and I had that all go to shit right in the last minute, and I almost felt like I'd let everyone down that I didn't get the giant, you know what I mean? Because everyone's like, oh, Nick goes away, he's going to shoot something big, and we still shot amazing animals up there. Like, don't get me wrong, the scrubbles I shot huge, giants, and I still shot a really nice bull. Like, I shot a 100-point bull up there as well, which is big. But myself, for a little period there, I was like, fuck, we didn't get that big bull. Like, should have done this. I'm better than that. Should have done this right. Should have done that differently. But I was like, man, at the end of the day, we went up, had an awesome time, and we get to go and do it again next year. Like, is what it is.
I'd say he'll probably still be there.
Probably.
Tell the story on that one, because that's a cool story, and he was a monster. If anyone hasn't gone watch the film, is it?
He's not out yet. He's episode 3.
Oh, next episode. So episode 2 just went live a couple of days ago.
That was a monster bull as well, though.
Yeah, it was. That but I've seen the photos and shit of that one. It was huge.
Yeah. So we'd basically finally patterned the bulls off, or found the area where there was a few big bulls, and you'd have to go out into the floodplain in knee-deep water a couple Ks, and you'd be sloshing around, and you're like, is there a croc here? Is there not? And anyway, we glassed up this one bull, and he was probably high 90s, and at the time, me and Hoda were like, oh, there's a dink in between us and this bull. And he was laying down asleep, and I could just see this big sweeping horn coming out of the reeds. And we were like 250 off, and this other bull was feeding in between us and him, and he was laying down facing away. And we're like, if this little bull wasn't here, I could just literally toddle on up and shoot him out of his wallow. And we sat off him for hours, and we're like, they'll get up and feed eventually, you know, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, hours went by, and we tried to make a play, and the other bull had fed off probably 300 yards, the small bull, and this other bull had got up, and the bull on the right, the dink that we were calling, we eventually spooked him, and he ran out into the floodplain and done this huge big loop, thundering around, and took that monstrous bull with him off into the floodplain. So we're like, right, come back the next day, and we're like, we're going to go find this bull again. Park the car, walk about a K out to the floodplain, peer over the edge of the floodplain. There he is, just right where we left him. He was a little bit further out, and he was up feeding around, but he was like facing towards us. He, after a couple hours, what we figured out was in late afternoon they'd go right out into the middle of the floodplain, some of the bulls, and some would go right out into the scrub. We're like, don't know where he's going to go. Anyway, he went to come out into the open, sort of milled around close to the edge, and it's just dead open. We couldn't do anything, so we just sat off him, and eventually he turned and just started walking straight out into the middle of the floodplain. And when that happened, I was just up his ass following him, and me and Hoda were crouched down, just going flat out. And we closed the gap from like probably 300 down to like 100 meters. Got in, and we're just going to try and follow him. And in my head, I was like, I'll get to 60 and I'll shoot him at 60. Like, they're big animals. I generally don't take long shots past 20. But 60 on a buff, still fine. I was like, I'll get to 60, and if we can get a shot, I'll either call him, so he'll turn broadside and give us that look back, or we'll see what happens. And we were tailing him, and we come to a split, and there was this little waterway in the middle that there was definitely a croc in. And he looked like he was cutting around to the left. So we're like, all right, we'll go to the left-hand side of it. Anyway, he cuts left and then veers right, and we're on the wrong side of it. And like, fuck, so we had to do this big loop around on the way back. And if we went to that right-hand side, he would have come past us like 40 yards. Anyway, followed him out. And eventually I was at like 62 meters off him, and he was slowing down a lot. And there was a wallow in front of us, probably 2 yards in front of us. And I was like, I'll get into that wallow and I'll stop. So I'm a little bit lower. Just as that happened, he decided to sort of turn side on, and he's turned side on, and we've just hunkered down and stopped, and like there's just zero cover, like we stand out like dog's balls. The bull sort of half looked at us, and then it just starts like meandering in slowly. And I had a spot hog triple stack slider set on 50, 60, 70. Anyway, he's coming in, and Hoda's got the rangefinder, and I'm like, how far is he? And I'm going to move real slow on the slider, and all of a sudden he's just full on coming in, looking at us sort of. It wasn't front on, he was quartering a little ways, and I'm trying to slide my sight because I wasn't comfortable with shooting and guessing from 50, 60, 70. I was trying to slide it down to a lower setting, like 30, 40, 50, whatever. And because of the stalk, because I've been putting my bow down in the mud the whole way out, the sight was just like gunk. And I couldn't roll the dial, and I'm like grabbing it as hard as I can whilst trying not to be seen by this ball and trying to slide it, and I couldn't get it to move. And he come all the way into, I still remember, 37 yards, and just looked at us like that before he thundered away. If I had the sight set, I probably could have shot him how he was, but it all went to shit. He took off, and I had quite a little tantrum out on the floodplain there. And I was like so disappointed, like, I thought we'd done everything right to get in that bull. Like, in my head, I'd shot him. I was like, if I can get out here to 60 and he's going to do that, I'm going to shoot him. Like, the wind was perfect. I sort of had the deal sealed in my mind, and it all went to shit in the end, which is bow hunting. It is what it's about. And I was just like, fuck, you're an idiot, Nick. Like, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? But in my head, I was like, had it all correct how I had it to plan out. Never goes that way, as it is. But that bull, man, biggest buff I've ever seen in the wild.
Monster.
Yeah, floodplain giant, like absolute beast, like old bull, huge in the body and just monstrous. So if you haven't seen him, there's a few clips on the bow hunting only Instagram, on mine as well. But he was just an absolute behemoth. But like you said, hopefully he's there again next year in the same spot. Are they that territorial? I don't really know, but I'll go up and go for a look, that's for sure.
I think they just move with food.
Yeah.
And they don't really need to. He'd probably been holding that place for a fair while, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I was quite interested when I come back and he was in the exact spot the next day, even though we'd spooked him the day prior.
Fingers crossed he's
So,
there.
like, there's not much hunting pressure there either, so it was pretty good. But in saying that, I know there's a lot of extremely good bulls on that floodplain. So we know where to hunt them. We know the pockets they hold in now. It'll probably change next year, but we'll definitely have a far higher likelihood of success on that like bigger class of bull.
That's exciting. I think, when are you going?
Don't know.
You're just going to book it?
It's just happening.
Yeah, that's the go.
It'll be later in the year when it dries out. We'll see how the wet is. I know I've got to go to Italy in October. We'll figure it out.
That's the way. Actually, that sort of segues into what I was going to talk to you about anyway, was the value of working on your business versus working in your business.
That old chestnut.
Because you see a lot of people get caught in that trap.
It is the hardest thing to get away from. And that's something I really try and focus on, is working on your business, adding value, new initiatives, new programs, products, everything like that. If you're simply acting as an employee of the business and not putting in things to grow that business, having the vision there, you're going to stagnate massively. And I find it hard sometimes, and it's hard with the store here. Like, a lot of people will want to come in and talk to me and interact and say good day, and I'll just be jammed back in my office, just being an introvert trying to do things. And it's a hard balance. But in business, you have to work on the business, not in the business. You need to own a business, not a job. And that's something I'm very big on as well. Sorry, you go.
No, I was just going to reinforce that. Like, it for me, getting back off the cameras and off the editing and giving that and trusting someone to do a good job is a hard part.
Yeah.
Because I'm a bit of a perfectionist with the stuff that we produce, but I've got a couple of good dudes with me now. But the value of stepping back, and then the stuff we were talking about, those tiny jobs, those little accumulating bastardized jobs that take you a whole day once you've got a list of them, that if you're working behind a counter that you don't get done, and then they compound into a week's worth of work that you don't get done, that you don't get done, that you don't get done.
Yeah.
And then your business pauses. You literally put the brakes on your own business.
Well, not even pauses, it goes backwards.
Yeah.
Because you stagnate and you're going to lose your momentum. But with that, having it's important to have a good team of people, and you have to be able to trust those people, because if you don't trust them, it's pointless having them in the job. But with that being said, if you're an owner-operator and you have staff, you need to know that they're not going to have as much vested interest as you. You can never expect someone who works for you to have the same vested interest as you, because it's not their business. So if you run with that philosophy, but know you have people that are in it for the right reasons, work diligently and are good at their job, a lot of the time, ultimately, they'll end up being better at that specific tasks than you are trying to be an octopus and do everything. So I'm a big believer in let people specialise in what they specialise in. They're better than me at that job. Let them do that and I'll manage everything. And that works so much better for us, particularly with Primabolics. You know, we've got quite a big team of people, and everyone in their particular jobs, they're way better than me at doing that. I never would be able to do that. But we put all those people together and we manage that team. You got a team that works way better. But you've got to have that trust.
I look at business like a ultramarathon, like an outdoors ultramarathon. So you're up there cleaning the track.
Yep.
You're up there, you're moving that trip hazard, you move that rock, you whatever, all that sort of stuff, and you're making it as easy as possible for those people to do their job.
I like that.
That's how I sort of
I
look at it.
That's quite true. But there will be times where personalities collide and things like that, and you have to be the mediator of that. And it's managing people is the biggest thing. If everyone within the business is happy, your business is going to sort of perform within reason. That's one thing I look for. And everyone is motivated by different things. Everyone's here for a different reason. And you get to know those people that work for you, and it's like, what are they here for? What drives them? And if you can cater, whether it's career progression to that or just the work environment or the tasks they're doing, the hours they're working, if you can try and cater to those people's wants and needs, they're going to work better for you. You know, like if your boss is actively going out of the way to, I guess, see you as a person, I think it's going to be better than just painting them with the one brush and expecting everyone, this is why you're here, this is what you're going to do, this is how it is, tough luck.
Yeah.
Everyone's an individual.
And putting effort into, like, it's for this business, it's reasonably small, so you can remember everyone's name and you have a relationship. But like those larger scale businesses, I think there's huge value in first and last names. How's your wife?
Yeah.
How's your dog? Whatever dog's name is. Like that sort of stuff is hugely valuable, and it makes the people in your business feel valuable.
And be genuine about it though.
Yeah.
Because people can see through it when it's not.
Yeah. That's another value add. I come from executive roles and corporate stuff and have built teams and things, and I'm the opposite of a micromanager. To the point where it's mildly detrimental, where I don't give enough information.
Yep.
And I get some subpar thing and I'm like, that's not right. And they're like, well, you didn't tell me. And then, so that's a bit of a flaw of mine, I guess, that I need to slightly improve on. But I don't like micromanaging people. I like, that's your job. If you have a problem, come to me. But other than that, I'll try and make it as easy as possible for you to do your job. Tell me when it's done.
Yeah.
Here's the task. Tell me when it's done.
Yeah, I'm very similar to that. But don't come to me unless you've had a crack at fixing it.
Exactly.
There's like, we have so many resources available. It's like, if I don't know the answer, I'm just going to Google it or ChatGPT it myself. So it's like, you get people, they sort of autonomous, solve their own problems. It's like everything runs like clockwork. Like you don't have to be looking over someone's shoulder. Once you develop that trust, it's there for a reason.
And that's where I was going with this conversation. Is it allows you to have 3 days off a week to hunt boars.
Yeah,
and it allows you to
two
go
for fishing.
Yeah, this is true. And then Saturday, Sunday, no one's working, so don't worry about it.
I do some celebrity shifts on a Saturday. No, but with that, man, it's like one thing that's very important to me is my time doing the things I love doing. I've got some hobbies, I wouldn't call them hobbies, but things that I'm extremely passionate about in life. And I know I get so much out of going fishing and hunting, like makes me so happy. Like it is the greatest. And I wanted to build a lifestyle that would allow me to do those things. And also be in a field that I can generate an income from within the hunting side as well. So I can be involved in that. So what's big for me is time. Being able to spend my time doing what I love, making those memories along the way with the people in my close circle. So that was one big thing. And I think if you look at it, I battle with myself sometimes. It's like I could be here. I could be so much further ahead if I didn't go on this trip, if I didn't do this. But then I'm like, I'm doing this so I can do those trips. So I battle with myself on that, and it's something I'm very cognizant of. And it's like, what's the correct line? There's not one. It's just, I know that it will take slower to get to where I want to do if I want to do the 3 or 4 days a week here, or unless I spend 7 days a week in the office, you know. So I'm very cognizant of that, and I do battle myself on it, but I wouldn't trade it for the world, what I've done so far.
It's a constant struggle of mine too, and Mel really pushes me hard to think about it. Is I'm so engrossed in building business, but it's building business weirdly is a passion of mine.
Yep.
Like
For sure.
I like the idea of trying to make money, or making as much money as I possibly can, not for the sake of having a big bank account, but because that's the commodity, that's the game,
yep.
and that's what makes the world go round.
Yep.
And to be able to do cool shit.
Yeah.
But then I spend so much time down the rabbit hole of business, and like, I can't do that trip.
Yeah.
I can afford to. I can make the time.
Yeah.
But I don't.
Yeah.
And then I catch myself, and Mel catches me all the time. So like, there's a line to tread, and then you risk burnout. I haven't hit it yet. I've come close, but I don't think I've hit burnout, business burnout.
Yeah.
Just because I just remove all my emotion from it and just do what needs to be done.
Yeah. There is a concept that actually Will, my business partner, said to me, and I'm not going to quote this correctly, but it was basically, my body's ability limits my mind's ambition.
I like that.
Yeah. So it's like, you can have all these things, but unless you can physically put it into fruition, it's pointless. So there will come a time where you need to go, I have too much going on. I physically can't do this or do it to the best of my ability, and you need to pull back. It makes sense though.
Say it again.
So it was basically saying how the physicality of your body will limit the ambition of your mind, because you physically won't be able to do it.
Very true.
Yeah.
That's sick. I like that.
Yeah. And it makes sense. And it hit me, and I was like, wow, that's so true. It's like, you got all these things on, you burn out, you're exhausted, and you want to do all these things, but your body's like, just give me a fucking rest.
Yeah, let me
like,
sleep.
Let me have 8 hours sleep, you know? And it's so true. And it's like, have your body in a state where you can be doing things at 100% or as close to as possible. You're going to do those things better. So it's like knowing what you can do and when. I think from time to time, like other times you can just smash it and work, do 14, 15 hour days, whatever. But there will be times when you're like, okay, I recognize this. I'm doing everything subpar. I need to just slow down here. Reset, go again.
Yeah, and finding that balance is just constantly evolving too, I think.
Yeah.
It grows as you grow, as your business grows, all that sort of stuff. So you got to be conscious of it before it...
100%. And that's why I look at my cameraman here. We're doing 12 trips this year, not 6. We go the other way this year.
So just stoked.
It's going to be good. I'll talk to him and I'll be like, we should go here this month. And he's like, oh, when? Right.
Say yes and make it work.
That's right.
That's the best way to learn.
That's what it's about though. Just living.
It definitely is. If you were to compress a piece of advice into a statement or a paragraph or whatever for people that have just started, because the people that haven't started yet but want to start, I don't really pay a lot of attention to until they start.
Yeah.
Because there's lots of people that talk about starting.
Yeah.
The people that have just started doing something that they're passionate about, business, otherwise, if I was to ask you what advice could you give those kind of people, what would you say? It's
a long road. Accept your failures as a lesson and never quit. You'll get there eventually. If you keep showing up, you will win eventually. You will fail along the way. It's going to be a long, shaky journey. It's not going to be how you expected, and it's going to take 3 times longer and cost 3 times more. But if you keep showing up, you'll be an overnight success story 10 years in the making. Like, for the first 10 years, no one knows who you are. Then all of a sudden, you're everyone's best friend. You've made it. You've done it. You've worked so hard. You've just got to work hard in the background, accept your failures as lessons, because you will fail and you will do it often. But you have to learn from it. You have to put your ego aside, do what's right for the business, and you'll succeed. Or there's a far greater likelihood you will succeed. Like, we're not guaranteed to win. Like, just because you think you're doing everything right, you're not guaranteed. There's no guarantees in this. You add value to people, the money will come later. It's a byproduct. That's right. But just honestly, just start. Just have a go. That's to summarize it. Just have a go and don't quit. That's a big thing of mine. Don't quit.
Don't be afraid to ask either, because a lot of people that are successful or are on the path that are a bit ahead of you will give you their time.
Another big thing is surround yourself with people who are doing better than you. If you want to be successful at business, get yourself mentors. Surround yourself with people who are running successful businesses. Emulate what they do. Like, you'll be surprised at how much information and knowledge people will give out to someone who's up and coming. Like, put yourself in the room with people who are doing what you want to do. That's the biggest key. Like, you can't just hang around the same people and expect to be operating at this high level, because you don't know what it takes. Put yourself in rooms with people who know more than you, or in the position that you want to be in, and be the hardest worker in the room.
Yep, but you be the dumbest person in the room and be the hardest worker in the room is the advice I was given by a lot of people.
Yep, and a lot of things in life that I'm learning, it's not what you know, it's who you know as well. So, like, leverage those relationships. You'll be surprised where it takes you. And again, you've got to be in the room with those people to do it. But it comes over time. You know, everything takes time, and it's compounding. Like, nothing happens overnight, which I think a lot of people are like, oh, I've been going 3 months and nothing's happening. It's like, well, go for 6 years and then see how you go.
And then you get a little bit of momentum.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I've been doing this for, I don't even know, 7, 8. And I'm only just starting to get, like, proper legs up with it now.
Yeah.
And that's only been in the last 18 months, 2 years.
Yeah. And then you look back in 3 years and you're like, yeah, we're just getting going now when we're running our 2 expos a year or whatever. So it's like, you always want more. You're always chasing more. But I think that's the key to it as well.
The curse of ambition.
That's right.
It is. On that note, let's wrap this up, man. Thank you very much for your time. What's your business? How can people find you? What shit do you do?
Bow Hunting Only is our store. Obviously, Bow Hunting Only is the website and the Instagram as well. Give us a call or send us a DM if you want to know anything about bow hunting. Happy to chat. And our supplement brand is Primabolics. So you'll find us in all the major retailers across the country and in New Zealand. And the Instagram and the website is the same.
Thank you very much for your time, man. I always get a lot from our chats.
My pleasure, sir.
Thank you very much. Bye, everybody.